I don't fault anybody for initially embarking on a vaccination strategy and finding an unknown safety signal. I think that was bound to happen. It was possible it happened. I don't fault anyone for that. So from December 2020, January 2021, I'm not faulting anyone for those 2 months. February 2021, we had the Jerusalem Post story that the Israelis said that there's myocarditis. It was mostly in 16 to 19-year-old men who were getting this shot. From that moment, I will argue, and I have argued in many op-eds and many long-form pieces, that the U.S. did not take myocarditis seriously. Rochelle Walensky was quoted many months later saying, "We've looked at 200 million cases. We've not seen a signal." That couldn't possibly be true because the signal was there and the signal was evident. It was investigated by the EMA in May. And by the summertime, we clearly knew this was a real safety signal. Even if you were to forgive them for a few months delay while they sorted things out, when the moment they saw was a real safety signal, you need to take seriously safety in a lower risk group as seriously as you took bringing the vaccine to market in the first place. We needed randomized trials testing different dose levels of this vaccine, lower doses in adolescent boys, lower doses in younger people. We needed to rethink the booster strategy. Maybe we didn't need the booster strategy in young men. Any young man, 20-year-old man who had a booster and booster-induced myocarditis, you really have to wonder. We needed to start to think about whether or not there should be carve-outs for people with natural immunity, whether or not you could space the doses further apart. Norway did that. It took us another year to act upon that information. Whether or not Moderna was more risky than Pfizer, that was true. Ontario data showed that. We could have banned Moderna on men under 40. We didn't do the things we were supposed to do to take safety seriously. We continued to, and by we, I mean the administration, not me. I was one of the few people who really understood that this was an important safety signal. You have to take the safety seriously because regulatory science is not a one-time interaction. It's a game of reputation. The reputation is hard fought and earned over decades, and this administration just was spending the reputation, relentlessly spending it in a one-size-fits-all pursuit of booster policies that benefit the company, but not clear that they benefit these young people. Even when Gruber and Krauss, the two people at FDA, resigned over their zealotry on boosters, they still refused to take this seriously. I still believe they're not taking it seriously. This publication should have been discussed at the Bivalent Booster Committee. It was not. I'm very concerned about this. I think that there's going to be, I know what's going to happen. Right now, people are still in the passions of COVID-19. They're not thinking clearly. They're using the part of the brain that's rotten and is affected by emotions, not the reasonable, rigorous part of the brain. It's very difficult to focus on the reasonable part of the brain in times when you are concerned about your health and you're stressed. But what will happen is as time goes on, reason will prevail. And people will look back on this episode and they will identify exactly as I have. The paper trail is as long as it comes. We have everything documented in the news media, when the decisions were made, what they knew at the time. And they will say very clearly that this was a failure of the FDA. I suspect the Government Accountability Office will investigate. They will write two things. One, the White House had undue influence on the FDA, leading to the resignation of two important people who would have safeguarded public health. The FDA had a unyielding focus on one-size-fits-all booster strategies without taking the safety of adolescent young men into account, and also some women in this study, but mostly men, and didn't do what it takes to mitigate the harm of this. This was a preventable, maybe not entirely preventable, but certainly ameliorable, certainly something you can improve upon. And the goal of vaccination campaigns is to vaccinate, but as safely as possible. You got to take vaccination seriously. You got to take safety seriously. That's the social contract. You can't give up the safety part, and I fear they have. Many of us worried about late GAD enhancement and what that means. We still don't know. The jury's still out. And you can argue that some of the symptoms people are feeling might be due to all the stuff that's going on in society, maybe not the myocarditis per se. Some of it might be due to the fact that they got a shot and they got myocarditis. That's attributable to myocarditis. But what you cannot argue with is that these people are taking these cardiac meds. We're talking about roughly 1 in 4. And some kids are still facing restrictions on their daily activities. And that, to me, is absolutely untenable. So this paper I view as very concerning. It is a fragmented, incomplete snapshot with poor controls. The fact that we don't have a better study conducted under the auspices of CDC reflects another way in which they're failed, because they're failing to collect data. They have failed so many times. I have so little respect for them. I'm going to leave this pandemic with nearly no respect for them and anyone who made these decisions. And what that means is makes my life harder, because I already had a lot of things that I want to read about and really understand fully to make decisions in my own life and to really know the answer, because I like to know the answer. Now, thanks to them, and the way in which they do things, I'm going to have to read a whole lot more things because I want to understand even more. So, those are my thoughts on this important Lancet Child and Adolescent Medicine paper. That's it. That's what you get on this channel, a professor, epidemiologist, practicing doctor, giving his thoughts on the literature. Unbiased, I like to call it like I see it. I am just being totally straightforward with you. This is how I view the issue. It's nuanced. It's in the middle. It's not one extreme or the other. That's the way science is. That's the way evidence is. So if you like this video, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment, leave a message below. Go back and watch some other videos on the bivalent booster. Watch a video on whether or not the pandemic's over. And until next time.